state of Michigan.
Hi there, come on in. I'm Fred Trost, and this week I had promoted that we were going to be duck hunting with Dave Durrell. He's a paraplegic, lost his legs in a motorcycle accident, but still duck hunts. We're still going to put that feature on, but it's going to be December 23rd. It's a great story. The big news is that we're going to put on first is our duck hunting that we had this weekend at Shiawassee. I know it was supposed to be a lousy duck season this year, and maybe it was for most people. I had a phenomenal time, got my limit of ducks and geese. We're going to be back with that story in just a minute, so you stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors. Duck hunters gather opening weekend at the Shiawassee managed waterfowl area in St. Charles for what's been forecast as an ill-fated waterfowl season around the United States. The array of stamps and permits are checked, and maps of the area are studied by hunters. These hunters were drawn by computer for permits to hunt Shiawassee this afternoon, and after showing up, a second drawing determines the order in which hunting parties choose their blinds. All positions are numbered in flooded fields, and wildlife managers explain the conditions at the different blinds.
And you'll be throwing your decoys out in the Shiawassee River there. The river fluctuates with the Saginaw Bay due to the wind conditions. If the wind is blowing as hard as it is today, it's possible that your open water may be 10, 15 yards out from the available cover.
The hunt master in our party is Chuck Nelson, Parks and Recreation Professor at Michigan State University and longtime duck hunter who doesn't want the hunters ahead of us to know the blind we want to choose.
Here's the deal. We're trying to keep quiet because all these hunters are vying for positions. And you seem to have an inside analysis, Chuck.
Well, my inside analysis, I can
Don't
actually...
talk so loud.
Oh.
What Bob said that was important. We've been trying to get off into a little group here.
The inside analysis you can partially get from looking at the kill sheets, which everybody can look at, which are on the board. It tells you where people hunted the other day and what their hunting success was. And that's what I did a little bit, is look in there. And it appears for the first day, the flooded woods was a very good spot to hunt. However, it's a challenging place to get into, requires a boat, lots of deadfalls in there, some deep channels, so you've got to be careful. The cornfields did moderately well and appeared to do almost better on geese than they did on ducks, so we'll have to kind of decide what we really want to go after here.
But you're going to decide that. This is the hunt master of this hunt, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I'll tell you what, I've got the permit to bring you guys all in here, but when it comes to deciding where we're going to hunt, Chuck's it.
Okay, but now, so what? How are we going to play this?
Well, I think the strategy will be, if we get a pretty good draw, we'll go to one of the middle rows in one of the cornfields. Usually if you go to the middle, you're better off than if you go to the edge. It's not always true, but it's a general rule of thumb. The middle of the field, the birds usually feel more secure there. So that's what we'll be shooting for if we get a good draw.
How about that? Okay.
One of the problems with hunting in the woods is people tend to crowd up sometimes. You get in a pretty good spot and people can move right over next to you. And I think one of the beauties of some of the managed hunt programs we have is that with the flooded corn hunting, you can be assured that no one can hunt right next to you. The birds will work. You get a real opportunity to watch them, which I think is much of the hunt. Get to watch your own dog work, not worry about having somebody hunt 50 yards from you, sky shooting the birds coming to you, whatever.
So we would like to put out the word here, sort of spill it out to the rest of the guys. The end of the cornfield would be the best place to get in the woods. So this is the false information we will be trying to plant to encourage others
yes,
to pick those spots.
But then again, you know, they've seen our success in some of these duck hunts. So maybe we ought to plant it at the middle of the field. It's the place to be.
And they'll stay away.
Nobody would believe it.
But it could work out that yesterday's success doesn't have any bearing on today's.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But the weather. Yeah. How do you size
the
up the weather?
wind is a classic thing. What you want to be on the wind is you want to be able to have your decoys generally toward the middle of the field on the wind. You get a direct wind direction from the wrong way, and if you have an edge row, you're forced to put out next to the dike, which isn't very good. The birds don't like to go next to the dike. The birds really like to feel like they're inside the field somewhere.
So as you look at the map, we're going to turn it over to Chuck to look at the map, and you're going to take into account the wind direction, the dikes, the proximity and the end of the field, the whole works.
The whole works.
And you're going to do the best you can for us.
Right, and I guarantee nothing, because hunting is hunting, and that's the beauty of hunting. You can't guarantee a thing.
You have kept records, though. You will go back tonight and write records on this hunt.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've done this for years.
Many years.
How does that help you?
Well, a couple of ways. The reason I got started keeping records is I was one of the people who helped test out steel shot in the state before it became a requirement, and I was very curious to see, does it perform as well as lead? What I found out, my estimation is that it did. My hunting success did not change. No, rate of cripples didn't change. So I've just kept it up, and it's just very interesting to look back, see who I've hunted with, know that at certain times of the year, generally you can expect an increase in harvest and more birds around, better shooting opportunities. So it kind of helps me plan my year out, especially in negotiating with the family.
Good point. Opening weekend, always the best, right?
Not necessarily. I think that often later in the year when the birds move in and many people are distracted by other hunting activities or watching a football game on Saturday, whatever it may be, that's kind of when I like to go hunting more. When it's colder, when it's nastier, when there's a little bit more challenge to it. You may or may not get a thing, but on the other hand, it may be a tremendous day. Success in early November is probably as good as it is the first week of the season. The composition of birds changes. Early in the season, many more teal, wood ducks, widgeon, gadwall, ringnecks. Later in the season, in November, almost exclusively mallards.
And what are we going to find today?
I think we're going to find a smorgasbord of birds out there. There's going to be a little of everything.
Smorgasbord. You just rang this man's chimes right here.
Yeah, who brought the charcoal?
The one other.
Well, Bob Garner hoped we'd get enough for a duck dinner, and we did.
Yep.
Well, that's my limit.
Chuck's 4-year-old Labrador, Kate, retrieved 7 ducks, a mixed bag of mallards, pintail, and teal. I was also lucky to bag my limit of 2 geese, a real bonus for the day. The rainstorm early in the afternoon didn't bother us or the ducks, especially after the summer drought that put America's duck numbers at an all-time low. The limit this year is 3 ducks, plenty for a good meal. And we were lucky to be in the right place at the right time, not a frequent happening for duck hunters in 1988.
Jeff Hamill of Fremont caught this 1 pound, 1 ounce, 10 1/4 inch big bluegill on a night crawler fishing a lake in Newaygo County. Now, most Menominee whitefish aren't nearly as big as this 1 pound, 14 1/2 ouncer. It was caught by Richard Hughes of Muskegon using waxworms and single eggs. Lavina Brown of Big Rapids was fishing the Muskegon River and took this 10 pound, 1 ounce catfish on a minnow. A Muskegon lake fish, this 10 pound, 4 ounce walleye, was caught by Mike Mason of Walker using a Rapala fishing with Captain Mark Martin. Robert Bond Sr. of Grand Rapids called in this big 21 pound gobbler on opening day in Alpena County. It had a 10-inch beard. Now here's a huge buck, especially for Gladwin County, taken 2 days after Christmas by Earl Huntley while bow hunting. Earl says he's taken 21 bucks, but they were all spikes, 4s, and 6-pointers. So for taking this rocking chair buck, this buck of a lifetime with bow and arrow, we'll make Earl Huntley of Clio our Michigan Outdoors Big Buck Hunter of the Week.
Here's a question that confuses a lot of people. Colin Cooley from St. John's asks, can you shoot a deer on a public country road? If not, how far must you be off the road to legally shoot a deer with a firearm during the firearm deer season? Well, surprisingly, Colin, you can hunt within a road right-of-way if the road borders public land that's open to hunting. You can also hunt along or even on a county road that goes through private land if you own the land or if you have permission from the landowner. Use good judgment, though, and always be sure of your shot. While shooting from a roadside into the woods would give you a relatively safe backdrop, don't shoot down a road. That's just not good judgment. October 20th, 1984, the traditional pheasant season opener. Why, 25 years ago, nearly every road in Michigan's prime farmland, the Thumb, had a parked car where hunters were combing the nearby fields. And many hunters limited out in those days, but today, it was difficult to find any hunters on private farmland in the Thumb. But on this one little patch of ground that the DNR has been managing for pheasants as an experiment, our dogs even got excited over the scent of wild pheasants. I told Ed Tucker it seemed like the management experiment was working.
When we wanted to get into developing some pheasant areas with the idea of providing some cover and hoping to hold birds in a particular area to provide hunting for the adjoining private lands. And our biologist up in this area, Bud Jarvis, really truly believes that he's able to do this, and I think you saw all the birds today. We didn't get any, but there was some shooting around, and you heard a lot of shooting. You saw a lot of birds flying in the background, so the birds are here.
For a morning of hunting, we never flushed a rooster on point. We never shot a pheasant. In fact, we never got the chance to take a shot at a pheasant, and our experience matched most reports.
You guys just made your first big swing right through the cornfield. What'd you see?
Nothing.
How about you?
One hen and a big buck. See nothing.
You know, the big buck sounds pretty interesting. Just one hen among three guys right here in the state game area. Are there more hunters here this year than previous years?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think lack of space is drawing them closer together. There isn't much room for them to hunt. So if they find a halfway decent spot like it is here, they're going to converge on it and get what they can out of it in a short period of time. Because by noon, probably 90% of these cars will be gone.
What's your tip for success for a pheasant hunter nowadays?
Well, just keep hunting. Just keep trying.
Did you hunt pheasants back 20 years ago?
Oh, sure. I hunted about 25 years ago. Pheasants.
What happened to them?
I don't know. They all disappeared.
I know. It's something that's happened all over the country. What would you say, though? You know, you've discussed this over the years. What do you put your finger on as the reason?
Oh, I think it's a little bit of everything. You know, it's hunting pressure and it's all the insecticides and so forth put on fields. And it's a little bit of everything all put together.
What do you think the chances are of bringing the pheasant population back?
Well, it can be done.
Well, I didn't get nothing, so ain't nothing to be excited about.
Isn't there?
Yeah, it's good to be out, that's about it.
Have you hunted up here before?
Not in this area. Up in the Thumb I have, not here.
Where are you from?
Clarkston.
What's your name?
Mike.
Mike? Glad to meet you, Mike. When can we welcome you back here?
Not for a while.
Friendly dog.
Yeah, he's only 5 months old.
Oh. Well, what's your opinion of what happened to the pheasants?
Well, there ain't enough fields for hunting, really, around here. A lot of corn.
He's a corn hater.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like the corn?
No, you can't hunt in it. You can't see your dog in it. Somebody's gonna get shot in it.
What about you? You must have an opinion.
About the corn?
No, about the pheasants, where they went.
My opinion? Oh, I don't know. Pesticides, I guess. Can't, you know, I don't think it's over hunting. You know, if you're just shooting roosters, you aren't hurting anything.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't matter that much, but I don't know. It's
You think this is the turning point?
Of what?
Of the pheasant population. We have a big comeback?
I did a lot better last year than I'm looking to do this year. Well, like I say, you know, I'm all done after this weekend. I'm going bow hunting.
And speaking of bow hunting, we did kick up a deer in a drainage ditch that took off across the fields, and several places in this rather barren farmland we found where deer had been bedding. I got diverted to looking for deer sign, well, the same way many hunters have. In fact, a good share of the hunters that used to be out opening day for pheasants are right now sitting in trees waiting for deer with their bows and arrows. And how was this pheasant hunting success overall, though, in this mini game area, which is managed especially to bring back a wild pheasant population? Well, at least to show that it can be done.
You've been patrolling 9
square miles, yeah. I haven't seen any hunters except here on the mini game area. So
what does that mean?
That means that either there's no birds around except on the mini game area, or else there just aren't the hunters interested, I guess.
Have you seen much success?
No. I think talking to the fellows right around here is as good as anything. And nobody's got a bird here. You said 2 guys?
Well, we've seen some flying.
Well, that's good.
This is, you know, it's
Well,
like,
we know that there's birds on the mini game area. And this survey we're doing, you know, is trying to evaluate that somewhat.
Mhm. What does it look like to you? Does it look like that the habitat manipulation has worked?
Oh, I'm sure it has. And the big thing we're hoping, you know, from the mini game areas, that it would spread out on this private land, and I hope it does.
What's the attitude of the hunters you've talked to?
Oh, maybe disgusted.
Disgusted?
Typical, you know, when you don't see any birds. It's a beautiful day, though. We know.
We've been with the DNR a long time. Seen a lot of programs come and go out at Rose Lake. Things come and go, and a lot of research. What happened to the pheasants?
As a personal feeling, my feeling is the pheasant is a farm bird. And up to the point of eliminating all of the soil bank type of things, the shrubs. We've done pesticide studies. We eliminated its pesticide. We've got
not pesticide, you say?
Not pesticide, definitely not. We've done that research to prove that it wasn't. And but I do feel that these big farms now around, they've eliminated maybe you could say the herbicide instead of pesticide, eliminating every bit of the ditch banks, cover and all that is gone. So you come up here in the winter, you can look, you know, across 2 sections of land and not see a blade of grass, you know. And even when we tried to collect those birds for the pesticide study, we had a rough time getting them because there was no cover to even hunt them in the winter. It's not so bad right now, but, you know, in the winter months, it's just nothing.
One bird that requires almost nothing to survive is the Chinese Sichuan pheasant. Still an experiment in Michigan, but we do have some good news for ringneck numbers in 1988 coming up in our guide report. They're up significantly from that very poor season of 1984.
What does sonar mean? Sonar is an acronym for sound, navigation, and ranging. It was developed during World War II as a means of tracking enemy submarines.
Mike DeFazio from Southfield sent us a classic recipe for stuffed pheasant. Of course, this was opening day. We didn't get the camera report together yet, so we're going to put some quail in that we got on a preserve, Kathy Beitler.
Okay, the quail is just as good as the pheasant. They're smaller and maybe just a little bit juicier, but other than that, they're just as good for this recipe. And this recipe is basically a wild rice stuffing recipe. You've got your chicken broth for liquid and Italian sausage and fresh mushrooms, and just 1/4 of those, and your wild rice. And all your sage and recipe or seasonings and everything are right in the sausage and in the wild rice stuffing. So you don't need any celery or onions or anything else to go with it. And I'm just going to mix this up. Now, these are parboiled because they were frozen. So I did parboil them so I could go ahead and stuff them. And then just go ahead and put your stuffing in and put a piece of bacon on top. And the bacon will hold in the moisture and hold the birds together.
So you don't think those little quail will dry out this way, Kath?
Oh, absolutely not, especially with the bacon on top.
Sure looks good, but I wonder with the small portions of our gourmet garner we'll be satisfied.
Oh, yeah. If you've got a bunch of them, these are finger food, Fred. The very best finger food you could ever want, these little quail. And it makes you look forward to the season coming up. This just delicious, and I like that sausage in there for the stuffing.
These actually aren't that small.
No,
I mean,
they aren't.
the meat,
There's a lot of meat on them for what they are.
I think cooking them in the oven like this and baking them, and all the meat comes off the bone, you get the maximum amount.
Well, look how juicy it is, too. I mean, this stuff is not dry, tasteless. This is juicy.
You know, I just realized, people say, how come I don't eat when we're doing these recipes? I just slipped here. This is so good.
Yeah, quit eating. I'll have yours.
Mine's all gone.
With any game bird, grouse, pheasant, this is the
absolutely.
ticket. I like it better than chicken because it's not all greasy.
It's not, it's not oily.
But the bacon, there's no doubt it's the bacon that helps keep this nice and moist.
Yep.
And the dressing. Oh.
It's not overpowering.
You ready for another one, Bob?
Give me a plate of the dressing, too, will you?
All the ingredients for tonight's recipe, in case you didn't write them down. A little sunshine, the outdoors should be a great place to be. I hope you can get out there this weekend. See you next week. Next week on Michigan Outdoors, we'll show you the hunt we actually did today. You know, today was the opening of Michigan's pheasant season. We didn't have time to put the opening day story together and get it on the air tonight, so next week you'll find out whether the prediction of 35% more pheasants for this season actually holds. Our recipe, oh, it's an award winner from our 1988 cooking contest, a small game casserole that's absolutely top drawer. We'll also have hunting and fishing stories from our trophy winners. That's next week right here on PBS.